if you're going to be in Pegasus, we really want you to use our technology because we're going to put you out front and center. And we want you to be the early adopters of the new stuff that's coming out, like Dragon Copilot, like AI Foundry, put your models up there, all of that. So we're looking for companies that really want to dig in deep to all the goodness that we can offer.
That was Sally Ann Frank, someone that you might call a startup whisperer. With more than 25 years at the intersection of tech and healthcare, and degrees from Virginia Tech, USC, and George Washington University, she brings a deep passion for helping innovators succeed. As a strategist and mentor, she spent 16 years at Microsoft, taking on roles in IT, marketing, and ultimately healthcare innovation.
Then when I saw the impact that could be had in healthcare, I was smitten. I mean, it was like healthcare is this unknown desire and passion that I had. So I went from that into this role, coming up on 5 years, and it's really been one of the most interesting and fun roles I've ever had, because you get to see all that's coming down the pike and encourage and coach and facilitate the growth of these really important innovators in this ecosystem.
What truly sets her apart is her ability to spot what's next, a skill she brings to her current role leading health and life sciences for Microsoft for Startups, where she guides entrepreneurs through the messy muddle of building a business. Her first book, The Startup Protocol, has become the playbook many founders didn't even know they needed, packed with hard-earned lessons for digital health innovators. And her follow-up, The Unicorn Protocol, already looks to be a game changer, slated to release in 2026. Today on Digital Health Disruptors, we'll dive into everything from the key elements in Sally Ann Frank's book to coachable founders, early clinician involvement, and the benefits of being part of Microsoft for Startups and the Pegasus Program. And Sally shows that it's not just the technology that drives success, it's the people, the mindset, and the approach, creating solutions that truly fit real-world healthcare. This episode is packed with insights. Let's dig in. Welcome to Digital Health Disruptors by Charm Health, empowering innovative clinicians on the digital health frontier. On this podcast, we explore the trials and triumphs of pioneers at the intersection of technology and healthcare. I'm your host, Ranjani Rangan. Sally, you've had such a wide-ranging career, from tech to advising startups to working closely with innovators around the world. But I'd love to go back a bit. Was there a poignant story that really touched you? That really is the driving force of your passion?
Well, one of the things that I think is unique to the health and life sciences ecosystem is that the founders of these early stage companies are driven by mission. And many of them are servant leaders. Many of them are compelled to do what they do based on their own experience or the experience of a loved one. And one of the first companies that I worked with was Alaris. It's out of Boston, and Liz O'Day is the founder. Her story is so compelling because as a child, her brother was diagnosed with cancer, and she saw the way that he was being treated and the pain and anxiety and everything that was going on. And at a young child said, there's got to be a different way. And she's literally dedicated herself in building this company and her studies that led up to this to really focus on how to treat disease in a much more humane way. Another one is a company in the portfolio today called Neuro. It's Dr. Geeta is out of India. And because she had so many friends and families diagnosed with breast cancer, she came up with this very small camera that uses thermal imaging in an AI, of course, that you can use in a community health setting or in a rural area. And globally, she's bringing breast cancer detection to underserved areas. It's just really incredible because she's solving an access problem. She's solving a problem in giving people that don't have the type of healthcare that we take for granted every day in the big cities in the US. She's giving them that peace of mind.
It's really these heartfelt stories, the human stories, right? Just a side note, like our CEO, she runs an EHR company, but she's got a family member with autism. And a part of the motivation for starting an EHR started off as a nonprofit and was purely because she wanted to create a patient portal for all the parents and the doctors who are dealing with the understanding of autism. And so because of that, she started this patient portal, which then evolved into an EHR. And now she's also running the Brain Foundation, which is a means of bringing medical doctors from all over the country and the world together to just have discussions and conversations. But I guess it's like what drives these founders is really these personal, strong experiences.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, I imagine you've seen founder burnout as well as everything in between. What have you observed? Was there a specific moment that made you go, okay, I need to write this down on paper?
You mean for the Startup Protocol book?
Yeah.
Yes. I was having the same conversation with founders over and over and over again. And I looked and there really wasn't any guide or any manual that basically went through and said, okay, when you're in ideate stage, these are the things you need to consider. These are the things that you should be thinking about. And so the book goes from ideate, build, launch, and grow, and not only gives you like tips and tricks and avoid this pitfall and don't do that, but I've actually drawn from the startups that I know and used them as examples. And so you'll see that there are snippets of a pitch deck, or there's a value statement when we're talking about how to build a value statement. So as one founder said, it's a mentor in a book. And when I finished that book, I realized that the story wasn't over. And so the second book, which is called The Unicorn Protocol, that's due out in January, really goes one step further. And I've interviewed 10 startup founders that have reached unicorn status to understand what their journeys are, so that if you've read the Startup Protocol and you know how to get going, it's there to help in that next phase and get people thinking about, okay, now I've built this. What does the journey to unicorn status or something close to that look like?
It's almost like a longitudinal study or a look back to see what it was that created those successes.
It was funny because a few of the founders from the Unicorn Protocol came back to me and said, I've never really looked at my story through this lens. And they were really quite enamored with the end product because they hadn't taken the time to really reflect on the journey from I have this idea to now we're worth $1 billion or more.
In so many ways, you said that there's no magic formula for success, but what's one or two key rules from your book, The Startup Protocol, that you want every health tech founder to keep front and center?
Please do your research. It's easier than ever with Copilot or whatever tool you want to use, but know who you're competing against, know who your likely customers could be. Figure out what personas you want to be selling to and who would be interested. Look at the various business models, come up with something unique. Look at how are you going to get paid? Like, what's the business model? There's so many folks that have really good ideas, but are so focused either on the product or on the go-to-market. And so the other thing is making sure that the product development roadmap, the regulatory roadmap, and the go-to-market roadmap are all aligned and you're building them at the same time so that you're not over pivoted on product or over pivoted on go-to-market when you don't have a product. And then the final thing, and I think this is something that you folks at Charm will also chime in on, if you're building something that you want a clinician to use or even a staff member, that it's got to integrate with the systems that they're already using. It has to have some kind of integration with the EHR. It has to have integration with billing system, whatever it may be. But the moment you make a staff person or clinician leave what they're doing to go do something else, they're not going to adopt it. Now, the caveat is when you have an MVP, if you've got some what I call proxy customers, they'll be willing to use it for a couple of weeks or a month to give you adjudication that, yes, this is valuable. But after that, you need to go, okay, product roadmap, it's going into the EHR.
Yeah, proxy customers. Can you go into that just a bit so we know what you mean?
Sure. When you have an idea, you need to go around to people who look like your desired customer and pitch the idea, show them your MVP or maybe just your click-through or your business plan, whatever you have, and ask them for their feedback. And the more you can do this, the more you will develop a group of advisors, a group of people bought into your mission, and ultimately probably your first customers. And so at the point where you're ideating, you don't have customers because you have nothing to sell. So that's why they're called proxy customers. And we have LinkedIn, we have the American Medical Association Physician Innovation Network, and all kinds of other programs and tools where you can find people. Because if you go to a nephrologist and you say, I'm building a solution to identify CKD, chronic kidney disease, earlier, and I'd love your feedback. It'll take me 15 minutes. They're going to say yes, because they want that too. And so then you bring them along on the journey. And then when you're ready and go, okay, I've got an MVP. Can you test it? They'll go, absolutely. They're emotionally bought in. And who knows, maybe they'll be an angel investor in your first references.
Sally Ann Frank leads health and life sciences for Microsoft's Pegasus program. And with her background, Sally understands the value startups can bring well before they generate monetary returns. Pegasus is invite-only, designed for growth stage startups with proven product market fit. It spans AI, cybersecurity, retail, and health and life sciences. Startups accepted into this program get access to dedicated cloud solution architects, success managers, and specialized technical and go-to-market guidance. You've already worn so many hats. You've been a mentor, advisor, an author, strategist. But one of the most intriguing roles you play is leading the Pegasus program for Microsoft Health and Life Sciences. What's it really like when a startup joins the Pegasus program?
So essentially, we're doing the technical excellence optimization that I think probably everyone would expect. But then the success manager actually helps them learn how to sell and how to be successful within the Microsoft ecosystem. So connections to internal teams, internal product teams is something that both the CSA and the success manager can help with, and really to enable the Pegasus to startups to be as successful as possible using our marketplace, using their customer network, and all of the things that an organization the size of Microsoft can bring to help an early stage startup grow and scale faster than they could on their own, and using obviously our tech. And so I come in kind of as a strategic advisor and connector and all of those things, and it's really a lot of fun. It's great work.
That's incredible validation. So these startups end up on the marketplace.
On the Azure marketplaces, and that just essentially accelerates the procurement process for end customers that want to do that.
In the next segment, we'll look at the subtle signals and patterns that can reveal whether a startup is ready to scale. Then we'll bring these ideas to life with real examples, showing how some startups recognized the right moves early on and why that shaped their entire journey. Charm Health is having an innovation challenge for promising health tech startups. If you have an innovation and would like to participate, then head over to charmhealthchallenge.com to find out more. Sally, say you're talking to a brilliant doctor with a zero tech background, and they've got insight, but not the infrastructure. What do you tell them? Where should they start? And how do they find the right team?
It's a really good question. One of the things that I encourage people to do is, especially if you're a clinician, and I'm actually seeing more and more clinicians with MBAs and all of that. So they're actually spending a lot more time trying to learn the business side of what they do, which I think is very encouraging. But the fact of the matter is that you can go to a VC, you can go to your colleagues and vet an idea without having the technology already set. I encourage folks to either use Figma, Canva, PowerPoint, whatever, and build a mock-up of what they're trying to build and ensure that people are willing to pay you to solve this particular problem.
Tools have democratized the prototyping process, enabling founders to create interactive mock-ups without the need for extensive coding knowledge. This approach aligns with the lean startup principle, emphasizing rapid prototyping and early validation.
Because one of the things that I do see is somebody comes up with an idea and they build out this beautiful product and then nobody's really interested. So the first step is really to make sure that this is not just a problem that you are experiencing if you're a brilliant clinician, but that you have the confirmation of your colleagues, perhaps in the hospital, in your state, and around the world, so that it's a viable problem to solve that will lead to success of the business. And then once you've confirmed that, then people are going to come out of the woodwork to help. You can go to a smaller, local, regional developer. And frankly, we've got so many tools now to build agents, to build co-pilots and things like that, that, it's getting easier and easier to build something that doesn't necessarily need that heavy infrastructure. Now, if you can build it quickly, it means the next person can build it quickly. So you've got to make sure there's enough of a moat around what you're building to make it viable.
How do you tell if a startup is ready to scale or if they need to pause and rethink things?
A variety of factors. One is, do they have paying customers? And even if it's just a pilot that they got, $2,000 for, but somebody's willing to pay something. So that's number one, because that's the beginning of product market fit.
Yeah.
Secondly, is the founder coachable? The fact of the matter is that starting a company and making it successful means that you have to be open to new ideas, to being flexible, and to being coachable by people who you may not know very well. That's another one. The other thing is the team. How integrated is the team? How effective is the team? Did the person hire family and friends, or did the person actually go out and find the expert on AI for imaging? And did they go out and find a salesperson that used to be with Philips, even if they're fractional people? And then, have they been through an accelerator? Do they have a relationship with a VC? Are they getting other people to buy into their vision and support their growth and development?
I'd love to hear about some of those startups that you worked very closely with such as Healthy or Stroll. From your vantage point, what did these companies get right early on?
So I'll start with Stroll. So Stroll has a solution that's augmented reality for neuro rehab. So think about people recovering from a stroke, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, anybody with a gait or balance problem. And this is one of those stories, Rajani, about a founder being compelled to do something because of their own experience. So the founder actually started the technology and built it for his own father. And so one of the things that they did early on was to build a website and get some early customers, Cleveland Clinic being one of them, where they could show literally people playing these games through the augmented reality, because it's important that they see their surroundings, virtual reality, and having the people give their own testimonials, having the physical therapist give testimonials. There's this one snippet where the physical therapist tells the patient, "You've played this game like 314 times. It's so incredible to see and hear directly from the people using it. So what they have is basically biometrics and other wellness diagnostic tools, all from the comfort of your cell phone or webcam. And so it's everything from like skin lesions and things like that to variable heart rate, blood pressure, pulse rate, like all these vitals. And the thing that's really interesting about this is they have positioned this, while they're getting all their government approvals, as a wellness tool, which is really, really smart, because there are a lot of folks out there building something that's going to have this long regulatory journey. And so are there things that you can do with it today that not clinically approved, but it is helpful?
Every day, it feels like a new app pops up. Some claim they can diagnose a cough. Others tell you exactly which beauty products to use from a selfie. AI makes it easy to build these tools in a flash. But here's the question. Maybe you're wondering the same thing. How do you tell which of these ideas are actually solving real problems, and which are all style and no substance? Beyond that, Sally looks for something more. the startups that have the potential to form the right kind of partnerships that allow them to thrive while adding real value to the larger system, Microsoft. How are you distinguishing this to be a viable product versus not? There's so many like this, right?
So number one, Healthy is very well funded. Number two, we put their facial scan through an AI ethical review here at Microsoft. And number three is they have lots of customers. And I know that there are a few handful of companies out there that are doing similar things, but we found the one that we thought would work well in our ecosystem, and it's proving to be true. And so it's a combination of what are the criteria that we're looking for that makes a good startup, and then what are the criteria that actually makes a good Microsoft partner.
At Microsoft for Startups, Sally Ann Frank leads efforts to connect early-stage health tech companies with the real needs of healthcare, spanning payers, providers, pharma, life sciences, and medical devices. Her team helps startups build solutions on Microsoft technology, ensuring they're secure, integrated, and ready for enterprise use. Essentially, she's creating a bridge between innovative startups and healthcare organizations, so companies don't have to reinvent the wheel. What do you mean by making a good Microsoft partner or something that fits into your ecosystem?
So we have an overarching industry strategy about how Microsoft goes to market in the health and life sciences industries. All of the Pegasus portfolio health and life sciences startups have to match to that strategy so that we are enhancing our ecosystem. So we're looking for those organizations that are eager to be part of our ecosystem. And I will tell you, we've talked to companies that are on competing vendor platforms, and we go, we've got this great program. You interested? And they're like, we don't want to do the move. We don't want to be on Azure, and we're happy where we are. So, okay, go be successful over there. That's fine. But if you're going to be in the Microsoft for Startups program, we want you to use our technology. And if you're going to be in Pegasus, we really want you to use our technology because we're going to put you out front and center. And we want you to be the early adopters of the new stuff that's coming out, like Dragon Copilot, like AI Foundry, put your models up there, all of that. So we're looking for companies that really want to dig in deep to all the goodness that we can offer.
Next up, what sets a health tech startup apart from servant leadership to flexible pivots, early clinician involvement to AI-powered agents? Are there any shared habits or strategic moves that you see that set them apart and help them hit the ground running?
Almost without exception, there was an air of servant leadership. Like the mission comes first. And if we succeed in completing the mission, the money will come, the customers will come. And so I think it was really, really interesting to see that even though these people had reached, pretty good achievement, that it was still very much about the mission and doing what they can to improve patient outcomes and how we deliver healthcare. So that's probably number one. Number two is being flexible. There were a couple of startups that started actually in one area, and then something happened and they go, oh, maybe we should be solving this problem. And the awareness to understand, well, this is what we started with, but maybe we need to be doing this over here. You need to be a lifelong learner. You need to be open to change, and you need to be flexible and coachable. It's much more about the personality, the culture that they set up within the organization, and those types of things, much more than they use this technology or they set up this business model. I will say that being an innovative thinker and thinking in different ways about how we start our business, I think is really interesting. And you'll see in the book that there's some ways that people got initial revenue that was just completely different. I'll give you one example. Concert AI is in the book, and their first revenue was essentially selling options on the future product that they were going to build. They hadn't built anything, but they're like, hey, we're building this thing. You want to get in early here? I wouldn't think of doing it that way, but it worked. It really, really worked. And so it's those types of looking at a business model or a problem upside down or right to left or left to right in new ways that really comes through when you see the way these folks have solved problems. Element Biosciences is also in the book. Molly He is the founder. And she went in thinking there's Illumina and there are these little small companies, and I'm going to go in right in the middle. And so she saw the ecosystem for DNA sequencing in a completely different way than the rest of us. She saw a niche and said, that's where I'm going to go. And they're doing gangbusters. But yeah, so you get the idea, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating. Charm Health is a total believer in bringing clinicians early, basically by the belief that clinicians, if they're part of the process from the start, then the trust builds naturally and adoption is smoother and outcomes get better. Are you seeing this among some of your startups, that they do have those clinicians early on in the game?
It's not one of our criteria, but one of the first startups in Pegasus that comes to mind is Artisight. And they have smart hospital rooms, smart patient rooms. And that was founded by Andrew Gossine, who's a doctor. We've got Hard Tech Health, not Pegasus startup, but it's a women's cardiology solution started by Suzanne Steinbaum, who's a cardiologist who's been working in the women's cardiology space for 25 years. So the thing that I think is really interesting, Dr. Peter Kim started Active Surgical, which does cameras and AI to see blood flow and other things when you're doing endoscopic, laparoscopic kind of surgeries. He's a pediatric surgeon. So in my mind's eye, I always saw him like working on little tiny bodies and going, I need to see better. And he comes up with this solution. But once he had this solution, he actually hired a professional CEO to run his company. And he remained the chief clinician, chief scientist. Now, in Andrew's case, he surrounded himself with really smart people, and he's really smart, and he didn't need to relinquish the reins. So there are different models for this, but I do think that having these clinicians in the leadership role, either as president, CEO, driving force, or as letting a business leader run the business and remaining that chief clinician and chief medical officer is imperative when you're building a solution for the payers, provider segments of this industry. And frankly, even sometimes when you're dealing with med tech and other segments in the industry.
So when I asked Sally if she sees a partnership forming between the Charm Health ecosystem and Microsoft for startups, she painted a really interesting picture. In her view, Charm Health can be the place where early-stage startups cut their teeth, figuring out how to connect with electronic medical records, while Microsoft steps in later, helping these same companies scale into big enterprise systems.
I think it's a continuum. So if a startup is early stage and trying to understand how to integrate with an electronic medical record, understanding the data that's available, and understanding how to put data in there from an external solution, then an organization like Charm is ideal for that. So I could see a scenario where early stage, they're working with you, and as they continue their journey up the chain to larger and larger accounts, then they add Athena Health, then they add Cerner, then they add Epic or whatever. You can provide the proving ground in a way that it's just way too complex to go out of the gate to an Epic or a Cerner.
So AI is booming in diagnostics, patient care, and admin work. What's the one trend in 2025 that you're watching super closely?
One is more clinical, one is more administrative. But I think about the agents, and I think about the fact that we have an increasing elderly population, decreasing staff, and now we have the ability to essentially have AI employees that can take the drudgery out of a lot of the work that we do, whether it's revenue cycle management, care coordination, and those types of things, so that the clinicians that we have, number one, don't have to do those things, and secondly, operate at the top of their license. One of the companies that we're working with, not Pegasus, but Careco, that does care coordination over the phone, and it's an agent. And so the agent is the one that's going back and forth. We've got another one that is in Pegasus called Outbound for revenue cycle management. They're doing calls, and it's an agent doing the call, talking to a person, and it's the agent that's sitting on hold for 45 minutes, not a person. You think about the value of that, and that's what's really, really exciting about AI and helping us deal with what's inevitably coming, where we're not going to have enough clinicians for the population.
In the middle of today's startup wave, Washington dropped a policy shift that could change the game. On May 13th, 2025, HHS and the FDA launched the 10-for-1 rule. For every new regulation, 10 must be cut. The idea is to clear away red tape and make space for innovation, especially in fast-moving areas like digital health. But with rules that can flip overnight, before you rush to build the next big thing, here's what Sally says every startup should do first.
It's an interesting inflection point in our health system for most of the startups, and most of our customers, in that fact, are interested in doing what is truly going to drive ROI, whether that's patient outcomes, whether it's saving money or whatever, and letting risk be the driving force. And so when we think about the regulations and we think about what's going on in Washington, we're all watching it, but frankly, I would hate to try and weigh in because it could change tomorrow. So I think we're all just trying to do the best we can and make sure that we keep the patient journey, the patient outcome at the center of what we're doing. Some of the things that we're doing as far as regulating AI, we still haven't gotten to that point in healthcare where AI regulations have hit the just right place. There's either some areas where there's too little, some areas where there's too much, and a lot of confusion because it's happening so fast. There is a little bit of wait and see type of thing. But when we think about what the solutions that we're building and what we're trying to achieve, that's not really going to change. And it's just a question of who do we have to report to and who do we have to adjudicate that this is ethical, efficacious, and safe.
Next up, to close things out, a few rapid-fire questions brought out the lighter side of Sally's more personal side. What's a fun or unexpected fact about you that most people wouldn't guess?
I just got back from a 2-week motorcycling trip around Western Canada and the Rockies. And I'm a pillion. I sit on the back. I don't drive because I'm too spastic. But we've done Peru a couple of times, Ecuador a couple of times, Ireland, U.S. Southwest. Now we did Canada, and hopefully Scotland's coming up sometime soon.
So put me on your motorcycle. What does that look like?
It's really, really, it sounds stupid, but it's zen. It's very zen because all you're doing is sitting there. We don't listen to music. My husband and I have communicators, so we do talk to each other. We saw so many sheep when we were in Ireland. We saw a moose and a few deer and a bear when we were in Canada. So yeah, it's just super cool.
What's the best way for founders to get involved with Microsoft for startups right now?
Startups.microsoft.com. Super easy. Lots of resources there.
Wonderful. Where can people grab a copy of the Startup Protocol?
It's available on Amazon.
It was such a pleasure to talk with you today. You went into so many different topics and so many examples. Made the podcast thoroughly enjoyable.
I appreciate the time, and I'm so looking forward to meeting you in person and being at Dermalot this year.
What a conversation. Sally and Frank reminded us that startups don't succeed just because of hype or cool tech. They thrive when founders have clarity of purpose, the humility to listen, and the discipline to execute. Programs like Microsoft for Startups, including Pegasus, give digital health founders guidance, tools, and networks they need to scale successfully. Her book, The Startup Protocol, serves as a mentor in print, showing founders how to pivot wisely, learn from proxy customers, and navigate the inevitable challenges along the way. Disruption is about serving with purpose, iterating thoughtfully, and letting the mission lead. Sally, thank you for sharing your wisdom, and thank you to our listeners for joining us on the Digital Health Disruptors podcast. Keep dreaming big, building smart, and putting patients at the center of innovation.